SHAQ. Four-time NBA champion, the Big Aristotle, Shaq Diesel, NBA on TNT host. These are just a few titles that come to mind when you think of the larger-than-life Shaquille O'Neal. But did you know he nearly drowned while scuba diving? Or that he couldn't dunk until he hit 6'11" at 17? Stick around because there's a lot more to the Shaq legend than you might think. At number 23, did you know Shaq's first love was football, not basketball? Michael Wilbon said it was more than a flirtation. In high school, Shaq played tight end and was set on an NFL career, until a scrawny kid took out his knee after a touchdown. He was done. Then there was the financial aspect. When Shaq saw John Koncak sign a 3-year, $15 million contract, that sealed the deal. Shaq figured if he were already dominating in high school, he'd definitely earn more in the NBA. Do the math. $2 million a year or $5 million? Smart move, big fella. Shaq earned approximately $292 million in his playing career, but this isn't surprising considering his dominance. He earned substantially more outside his NBA contracts, which brings me to number 22. Shaq was an early investor in several tech startups like Google, Apple, and Ring. The story behind Shaq's investment in Google is as legendary as the man himself.
So one day I'm sitting playing at the Beverly Hills Hotel and I hear these two gentlemen talking about Google search engines, and one day your phone's gonna be this, and you type anything and it comes up, and I was like, say that again? Oh, hey, how you doing, Shaq? Come over here, listen to this. Boom, 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 boom. If I would like to invest in this. My guy hooked it up and we invested, and then I forgot all about it. And then I read the article, and everybody else read the article about the big hit that some of the early investors received.
Shaq's investment in Ring is another intriguing story. 2 years after getting the boot from Shark Tank, Shaq saw the potential in Ring and decided to invest, even becoming a brand ambassador.
So I go to Best Buy and I get the little doorbell thing, and I get the floodlight cam, and I put them on myself. You take red on red, black on black, screw it. So I'm in China one day and my phone kept going on. I'm like, and I'm talking to this little kid that's at my door. I'm like, holy shit. So then I come to a conference here in Vegas and I meet the guy, Jamie Siminoff. I say, hey man, I want to invest in your company, and I want to help get the word out. Because I'm telling you, I done had a lot of these expensive camera systems. Nothing works like Ring, bro.
His keen eye paid off big time when Amazon acquired Ring for a reported $1 billion. These were just the tip-off of Shaq's investment career. Since then, he's poured his money into a roster of companies like Papa John's, Krispy Kreme, Auntie Anne's, Lyft, and many more. Talk about a slam dunk in the business world. Unlike most investors who sit on the sidelines, Shaq was an active player in all his ventures. He lent his larger-than-life persona to endorse brands and had a strong say in the scripts, always emphasizing humor. As he put it in one interview, the world is already serious enough. Shaq knows how to keep it light while making some serious moves.
Coming too.
To show you how it's done.
And speaking of endorsements, Shaq is one of the most visible pitchmen around, backing everything from printers to pizzas. But don't think he says yes to everything that comes his way. Shaq's picky about what gets his stamp of approval. He only endorses products he genuinely likes. For example, he turned down Wheaties twice after winning his first 2 championships. His reason?
I always tell a story about after I won my first championship, Wheaties wanted me to be on the cover. Never ate Wheaties, so I turned them down. Second ring championship, same thing. I say, hey, breakfast of champions, I know who you are, but I never eat Wheaties, I can't do it.
Shaq doesn't just do endorsements. He calls them partnerships. He only promotes products he truly believes in. Talk about keeping it real while keeping it lucrative. One endorsement that surprised many was the General Insurance, known for offering cheaper premiums. But there's a story behind that partnership.
I'm walking one day and I see this Bronco 2. That shit was raggedy, but it was a car. $1,500. So I get the Pilgrim for $1,800. So
yeah, we know that. We know the Pilgrims. So yeah, we know that.
So I go to the bank and get about $300, and I get the rest in ones. So I got the big knot. So then I go buy the car, and the guy says, hey man, before I let you drive, you need insurance. So I go to all these places, $300 a month, $200 a month. So now I got to go back to the dude like, hey man, I need my money back. I can't afford the insurance. So he said, no, go to this place. And the place I went to was the General. And the reason why I do commercials for the General now, one, they took care of me when I was young, but it's affordable insurance. So it's really a quality insurance company, just like all the other companies, but we decide we're not overcharging people, and you get the same thing.
Shaq's not just a pitchman, he's a living testimonial. But it's not all slam dunks for Shaq. One of his biggest regrets, not investing in Starbucks.
So anyway, Howard says, Shaq, I want to give you the opportunity to go in with me and open up these Starbucks franchises in African-American communities. And I'm always a guy that, if I don't believe in it, can't do it. Won't ever do it. No amount of money can make me endorse something that I'm not 100% behind. So I looked at great Howard Schultz's face and said, black people don't drink coffee, sir. I don't think it's gonna work. And you should have seen his face. He was like, all right, we're still good friends today, but that was one of my worst business decisions. Because now every time, on every corner, in every city, in every country, I see a Starbucks, I'm like, oh.
Turns out, a lot of people, regardless of their background, really do love their coffee. The seeds of Shaq's business acumen were planted early on, though not without some bumps. In college, he flunked a marketing class. Why? His professor gave him an F on a project where Shaq dreamed up his own brand. If Jordan had the Jumpman, Shaq envisioned the Dunkman, complete with shoes, shirts, towels, and more. His professor thought he was nuts, saying, "Big guys never sell in the NBA." It seemed accurate at the time, but fast forward a few decades, and the SHAQ brand has sold over 400 million pairs of shoes, raking in millions annually. Equally surprising is its backstory.
I had a Reebok deal, 40 for 5, and I'm leaving the arena one day, and this lady she's ripping me a new hat. You motherfuckers, charging these babies all this money for the shoes? So I had like a 2,000 in my pocket. I was like, ma'am, I don't make the prices. Here you go. And she smacked the money in my hand. Why don't you make a shoe that's affordable? And I thought about it. And I was like, you know what? She's right.
So he cut ties with Reebok to partner with Walmart to start his own shoe brand. But there were no hard feelings. He wore Reebok gear throughout his career. He even brought in their designers on board. And talk about a full circle moment. When ABG purchased Reebok, Shaq, now owning shares in ABG, came back into the fold. From flunking marketing to selling millions of shoes, Shaq turned criticism into a slam dunk. Shaq isn't just a savvy businessman, he also dabbled in a pretty impressive rap career. You could say he's one of the most successful NBA players to venture into the music industry. As soon as he entered the NBA, Shaq kicked off his rap career. His debut single, I Know I Got Skills, hit number 35 on the Billboard Hot 100. His first album, Shaq Diesel, eventually went platinum, selling over 1 million copies. Shaq followed up with Shaq Fu Da Return, which opened with tracks featuring Method Man and Redman, and included a collaboration with West Coast legend Warren G. While this album didn't quite reach the heights of his first, it still went gold, selling over 500,000 copies. Nonetheless, Shaq holds a unique title. He's the only athlete with a platinum-selling album. Unfortunately, Shaq's acting career didn't quite reach the same heights. He starred in a few movies, including Blue Chips and the comical flop Kazam, which pretty much spelled the end of his time as a leading man. However, Shaq didn't completely leave the silver screen. He popped up in supporting roles in films like Grown Ups, Scary Movie 4, and Blended. Shaq might not have become a Hollywood heavyweight, but he still managed to make his mark on the big screen in his own unique way. Not only did Shaq dabble in acting, but he also flexed his muscles in the wrestling world. A true aficionado, he made several WWE appearances, including a memorable stare-down with The Big Show in a battle royale. Sadly for fans, that epic match never happened. But Shaq didn't tap out. He jumped into All Elite Wrestling, teaming up for a tag match against Red Velvet and Cody Rhodes. Proving his commitment, he even took a table bump, showing that when it comes to wrestling, Shaq is all in. While some might argue that WWE is all show, this next point about Shaq is the real deal. Did you know Shaq trained in MMA as part of his off-court routine? He even credited it as a key factor in winning his 4 championships. At one point, Shaq challenged pro fighter Hongman Choi, a towering figure at 7'3" and 325 pounds. But sadly, that match never materialized. Shaq even had aspirations of joining the UFC, but Joe Rogan noted he would need to shed over 70 pounds to meet the 265-pound limit. Oh, what could have been? Speaking of Joe Rogan, did you know Shaq made a guest appearance on Fear Factor? That's right, Shaq and his family showed up at Universal Studios in Florida to cheer on contestants in Family Fear Factor. Just another example of Shaq being larger than life, both on and off the court. It's no secret that Shaq is a funny guy, always bringing humor to whatever he does. But do you know why? Once upon a time, Shaq was a bully. One incident nearly turned tragic when he punched another student in the stomach, triggering a seizure. That moment was a wake-up call for Shaq. From then on, he decided to turn things around and become the class clown. It was his way of making amends and spreading joy instead of fear, a trait that has stuck with him ever since. But on the court, it's a different story. Shaq morphs into a competitive psychopath who wants to destroy everyone in his path. It got so bad that he would trash his house after every loss, which changed when he had kids.
So in Orlando, when I first got to LA, if I lose a game, I tear my house up. I had to stop when I started having children, and which actually helped me.
Even retirement couldn't extinguish his competitive fire. When Kobe won his 5th title, Shaq was so furious, he trashed his home again. It's one reason why he spent the last few seasons of his NBA career ring-chasing, making stops in Cleveland and Boston, all in hopes of snagging that elusive 5th ring to match Kobe. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be, and he ended his career with 4 rings. Still not too shabby. During his college years at LSU, Shaq was a beast. He averaged over 5 blocks per game in his junior year. And get this, he went 12 for 12 from the free throw line in his last LSU game, a feat he never came close to replicating in the NBA. One reason for his dominance? He was tutored by Hall of Famer Bill Walton for a week after his freshman year. An interesting twist given their on and off relationship during his NBA career. Despite his dominance, Shaq's college success didn't translate into NCAA championships. His team only made it to the 2nd round. In high school, though, he was even more of a powerhouse, once posting an astonishing stat line of 26 points, 36 rebounds, and 26 blocks. Numbers even Wilt Chamberlain would be proud of. And his high school team only lost once, finishing with a 68-1 record. Nobody could have predicted Shaq's dominance. Not even his adoptive father, Philip Harrison. Shaq was already 6'4" at age 10 and around 6'7" by age 13. But he couldn't dunk due to a condition called Osgood-Schlatter disease, which Johns Hopkins medicine describes as knee pain in young children and adolescents who are still growing. This condition typically affects young athletes involved in sports that require lots of jumping and running. Shaq finally made his first dunk when he hit 6'11", thanks to a little motivation from his father. During a timeout after missing a finger roll, his father slapped him on the face, enraging Shaq, who then took it out on the rim, trying to tear it down. Ferocious is an understatement. Over his career, Shaq unofficially broke 12 rims. We're not just talking about bending them. He completely destroyed the support systems holding up the backboards, just like he did against the New Jersey Nets. It got so bad that the NBA had to reinforce the baskets to make them Shaq-proof, and added an official rule that breaking the rim or backboard would result in a technical foul. According to Section 2G of the rulebook, any player whose contact with the basket ring or backboard causes the backboard to shatter or makes the ring unplayable will be penalized with a non-sportsmanlike conduct technical foul. Talk about leaving a mark. Even more impressive than breaking backboards are Shaq's academic achievements. Most student athletes struggle to balance the demands of their sport with their studies, but Shaq excelled. Did you know that he had the highest GPA on the team during his freshman season? This was after his college coach, Dale Brown, woke him up and said, "What did I promise your mom and dad? You told me you wanted a degree, right? You're just going to miss class? That ain't gonna happen." Though Shaq declared for the NBA draft after his junior season, he didn't let go of his academic aspirations. He finished his degree 8 years later during the 2000 season, earned a master's in business administration from the University of Phoenix in 2005, and a doctorate from Baylor University in 2012. Hence, the nickname Dr. O'Neal, Ed.D. Shaq earned his doctorate with a thesis on the duality of humor and aggression in leadership styles, a topic that undoubtedly helped him manage his diverse portfolio of businesses, from car washes to Krispy Kreme donut stores. But did you know Shaq's love for fried chicken led him to open his own restaurant, Big Chicken? The menu is as funny as the man himself. There's the Charles Barkley sandwich, named after his former rival and fellow NBA on TNT host. It's a delicious mess of mac and cheese, fried onions, and roasted garlic barbecue aioli. As Shaq puts it, a sloppy sandwich for a sloppy guy. Then there's the spicy Nashville hot chicken sandwich, Uncle Jerome, named after his longtime bodyguard and friend Jerome Crawford. But Shaq's personal favorite is the MDE. Most delicious ever. A simple yet perfect chicken sandwich with Shaq sauce and pickles. And did you know that Shaq has a cookbook for those who prefer to whip up their own comfort meals? It's called Shaq's Family Style. Here's a gem of a quote from the book. "With recipes so easy that even Charles Barkley could do it. Classic Shaq, always mixing humor with flavor." Aside from being a businessman, author, and multi-degree holder, Shaq takes pride in staying in shape, thanks to a little motivation from Charles Barkley. As Shaq put it, "I had that Charles Barkley retirement body, but lifting weights almost killed him." Shaq and Barkley were invited to a lifting competition to promote the movie Pain and Gain, starring Mark Wahlberg and Dwayne Johnson. Wahlberg chose to train Chuck while Shaq teamed up with The Rock. The challenge? A bench press competition. First round, 135 pounds, no problem. Second round, 235 pounds, still easy. Third round, 315 pounds. Chuck handled it, but Shaq struggled.
Easy.
In the final round, Shaq ambitiously increased the weight to 405 pounds. With his arms shaking, he couldn't lift it. Luckily, The Rock stepped in to help him rack the bar.
It's not a clean bench.
Chuck ultimately won the contest, successfully lifting the 405-pound bar.
It's your time. You need help? Lock it out, lock it out!
This next story is even scarier. Shaq, ever the nature lover, decided to try scuba diving, but some things just aren't built for a man of his size and weight. As Shaq himself put it, he was too heavy.
You just stand up in the ocean, you can reach the bottom.
No, but I'm too heavy. Because when you scuba dive, they give you weights, and then when I went down, I hit the button, but I never came back up. I almost drowned. But then my instincts kicked in.
And then what'd you do? Just
Who knew that even the great Shaq could find himself in deep water, literally? But there are perks to being as big and imposing as Shaq. One of them, scaring off would-be criminals. Did you know Shaq is a deputy marshal and reserve officer in several states? This has been a lifelong dream for him. But he didn't want the title handed to him because of his fame. Instead, he went through training first in Los Angeles while with the Lakers, and later in Miami after he was traded to the Heat. Since retiring from the NBA, Shaq has become a reserve officer for the Doral Police Department in Florida, and was sworn in as a deputy sheriff in Jonesboro, Georgia in 2016. And get this, he holds the record as the tallest sheriff's deputy in the United States. Imagine being pulled over by Shaq. One of Shaq's many acts of kindness happened on a highway when a woman's tire blew out. Deputy Shaq didn't hesitate. He pulled over and stayed with her until the police arrived, making sure she was safe and sound. If getting pulled over by Shaq is nerve-wracking, imagine receiving a gift from SHAQ Claus. Shaq started the SHAQ Claus event to provide gifts, haircuts, food, clothing, and other goodies to hundreds of children in need. The story behind this event is as heartwarming as the event itself. It all began when Mama Shaq, Lucille O'Neal, attended a Boys and Girls Club event. Recognized as Shaq's mom, the kids eagerly gave her their wish lists. With thousands of requests, her allowance from Shaq wasn't enough, so she called him to borrow some money. Concerned, Shaq asked why she needed it. When he learned she wanted to buy presents for over 2,000 kids, he said, "You can't do that. I'll take care of it." Shaq then rallied his entourage, rented a U-Haul, and headed to Toys R Us. In record time, he set up the event, surprising his mother and delighting his young fans. This spontaneous act of generosity evolved into the SHAQ Claus event, which has been spreading joy for 22 years and counting. Shaq's generosity knows no bounds, especially when it comes to tipping waiters. Known for being a big tipper, he always shows his appreciation in a big way. Shaq once asked a waitress how much she wanted as a tip. She bravely replied $4,000, and Shaq, being the generous guy he is, happily obliged. In essence, he paid her rent for 2 months. Talk about making someone's day. And sticking to the topic of food, did you know Shaq isn't a fan of fancy cuisine? He calls it rich people food. Despite his fame and fortune, Shaq keeps it real with an unsophisticated palate. As his business partner Matthew Silverman puts it, instead of hors d'oeuvres, Shaq prefers fried chicken, donuts, burgers, and pepperoni pizza. Talk about a down-to-earth foodie. From food to reality shows, did you know that in 2009, Shaq teamed up with ABC to launch a reality show called SHAQ Versus? In this show, Shaq took on top athletes from different sports, showcasing his athletic prowess, humor, and determination as he trained for each new challenge. Shaq went head-to-head with some of the best, including 23-time Olympic gold medalist Michael Phelps, 11-time boxing champ Oscar De La Hoya, 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, National League MVP Albert Pujols, and beach volleyball gold medalists Misty May Treanor and Kerry Walsh. Though Shaq didn't always win, he competed and held his own, all while entertaining with his signature humor. Unfortunately, the show only lasted 2 seasons, but it was a fun ride while it lasted. While many know about Shaq's athletic prowess, you might not know about his massive car collection. Shaquille O'Neal is a certified car nut, with a vast collection that would make Jay Leno smile. Most of his vehicles are customized to fit his enormous 7'1" frame, which often means moving the seat back at least 9 inches. Some notable cars in his collection include the 1963 Cadillac Eldorado convertible from Scarface, a Mercedes S-Class convertible with suicide doors, a custom supercharged Dodge TRX with Apocalypse engraved on the tailgate, a customized 2022 Dodge Charger called the Hell Shack, a supersized Rolls-Royce Phantom, a stretched Polaris Slingshot, and a smart car. One common theme with all of Shaq's cars is the Superman logo. If you see one on the highway, there's a good chance it's Shaq. And at number 1 on this list is Shaq's enormous size. You may not fully grasp it on TV, but Shaq is a colossal human being. His size has even inspired a dedicated subreddit, SHAQ Holding Things. Some of the threads are absolutely hilarious. How about Shaq holding a nerd? Or Shaq holding the rock? Or Shaq holding a microphone? Or Shaq holding a better center? Or Shaq holding a donut? You get the point. And let's talk about his shoes. Those size 22s are bigger than a man's head. Check out Dwayne Wade holding Shaq's shoe phone. Goodness, those are massive. If you think Shaq is massive, wait until you see these NBA players who make him look like a regular-sized human. Check out this video to see these giants who literally look down on Shaq.